Hey, hello, people. Welcome to my channel. I feel like my intros are usually too long, so this time I try to keep it short. So I watched this movie that almost everyone watched, K-pop Demon Hunters. In this movie, there is this song called Strategy by Twice, and I listened to this on Deezer. Deezer? Yeah, Deezer. Everyone has Spotify, and I'm this one weirdo that has Deezer. So Deezer has this thing, it's called Deezer Flow. When you listen to Flow, they basically play different songs based on the songs that you previously listened to. And Deezer was basically, oh, you like the strategy song featuring Megan Thee Stallion? Then maybe you're also going to like this song. And then they recommended me the song Woke Up by XG. And this is how I discovered XG. XG is a Japanese K-pop inspired girl band that sings and raps in English. I watched a music video to Woke Up and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. And then I watched a choreography video to Woke Up and I was like, oh my god, it's so cool. All of their music videos seems to always follow either a wolf or an alien theme, and sometimes even both. And this is why I was inspired to make a wolf themed doll. And this is what we're going to do in this video. I already made a concept art for her, and you might have noticed something. There is no fur. Usually when you think of a wolf-themed doll, you probably think of fur. But here's the problem. I'm a bit on a budget, and I had to use what I had on hand. And the only fur fabric that I have is this one. The problem with this one is that it's attached to my dog. In the Woke Up music videos, they all wear these grills, and I also wanted my dog to wear grills, and that's why I sculpted a new face where her teeth is showing. And as always, I printed the face and started with the face up. I painted the teeth silver to represent the grills. I brushed on some miter glitters, but I went a bit overboard with it. I sketched out her face with this orange-brown pencil. I gave her a black to red gradient lip. I switched back between the two pencil colors, black and red, to make the gradient very smooth. When I drawed on the eye design in the eye corner, I realized that I didn't do a good job sanding the face because there were still some layer lines that made drawing on this eye design difficult. I drawn on the word wolf onto her face. So I found this one golden eye and I couldn't find the second one, so I had to make a new one, but I didn't know what size it was, so I made different sized eye bases. I bought myself this wax tool to make it easier to pick up these gems. I glued on some eyelashes, but I have to say these eyelashes always collect some dust. I don't know. Should I continue to glue on eyelashes if they always end up looking so dusty? I also glued on some piercings. In my concept art you had more piercing, but because of the size of the studs I thought it would look too crowded. So I only gave her 4 studs. I moved on to making her nails. As you can see, they are coffin shaped, and I know some people might say that stiletto shape would make more sense for a wolf type character, but I really wanted to make coffin shaped nails. I painted the nails silver and I painted the tips black. And then I decorated the nails with all the silver nail art accessories that I have. So last week was such a fail. So I tried to understand what really went wrong and why Lilo's wig went so well. And I think I finally understand why Lilo's wig worked and the others didn't. I think it has something to do with the cornrows. I think the cornrows and the crunching up of the fabric gave the wig cap structure, and because of the structure, the wig kept its shape. So I tried to recreate it by sewing the wig cap in a certain way. It's difficult to explain, but you will see it later. I also decided instead of sewing the elastic band completely onto the lace front fabric, I decided to only sew it on these 2 sides for now, and later when I'm done sewing the wig, I will sew the rest of the elastic onto the fabric. And then I sewed on the lace front as usual. I flipped the wig cap over, but I don't know, I kind of regret it. I don't necessarily would do it again. As usual, I rooted the hair into the lace front, which took a while. For the rest of the hair, I use hair weft, and I sewed them onto the wig cap. And then I had to make locks once again, but this time I make them differently than last time. I took a thick hair strand and a thin one and wrapped the thinner one around the thicker one, wrapping it around very tightly. When the thinner hair strands became shorter, I took a thin hair strand from the thicker one and started to wrap that one around the hair. Now the hair that I'm using is an ombre hair, and this is why there's this constant switch between black and blonde. That's because of the way I wrapped it around the hair. If you, however, don't want this and you want the whole hair strand to be black and only the end to be blonde, you have to wrap it a bit differently. You wrap around the hair strands as usual, but before you reach the blonde part, you already have to take one hair strand of the thicker hair strands and starting to wrap that around the hair and continue with it. And that's what I did to the rest of the hair. It took me a while to figure that out, and I wish I started in the back side because I started in the front and the front side looks a bit wonky because of that. This time this wig was not a failure. It stays on the head without needing Velcro. The next thing I made for her was her hat. I never made this type of hat before, and that's why I made 2 prototypes. I want to make her hat out of this black pleather fabric. These are the patterns that I came up with. The largest pattern piece is meant to be for the front, the sides and the back. I traced it onto the pleather fabric and then cut the pieces out. I used a piece for the ears, I don't know what else to call it, and placed it on another piece of pleather fabric. I sewed around it with leaving an opening and stuffed it with stuffing, I don't know. I took one of the side pieces and another pleather piece, good side to good side, and with the earpiece in between sew a line to connect these 2 pieces. Then I flipped it over and sew it close with one opening so I can stuff it. I did this with the rest of the pieces. And then I sewed everything together. And the hat looked awful. It was so difficult to work with this fabric because this fabric was so, I don't know, sticky and thick and it didn't want to fit under my machine. But I continue with this. I didn't felt like remaking it, so I decided to accessorize it to hide all the imperfections. Surprisingly, this hat didn't turn out so bad, which I still cannot believe. I think it's a bit too big, but at the same time, there's no way I could make it smaller, because if I made it smaller, it wouldn't fit over her head. I glued on some studs but they fell off, so I decided to use this sample back clip instead. I decided to use this clip because with the ears, her front part of her head looks a bit like a snout. I even considered giving the head some eyes to make them more obvious, but I actually like the subtlety. I made her a black top and I created this eye design to later iron it onto the top. They're meant to be wolf eyes, but because I had to put them so close together so they fit on the top, it doesn't really look like it. I put the top onto the doll and it kind of fixes the spacing between the eyes. They're not that close together, but they also look a bit derpy. The next thing I made was her sweater. I gave the sweater a color by sewing on a piece of fabric, flip it over, and then top stitch it. I created this flame design to iron it on to the sleeves. Look how great this looks. Look how terrible this looks. I sewed the sweater together and put it back onto the doll and then marked it where I wanted to cut it. I cut it and then tried to distress it as much as I can. The sleeves were a bit too tight and I didn't like what it looked like, so I cut them open. And then I used a black ribbon to lace them up. I made her some pants from the same fabric that I made her hat from. Cut out all the pieces and I sewed these two pieces together so they have a seam in the middle. I sewed the entire pants together. I decided to attach the belt loops with the sample back clips. Because working with this fabric is so difficult, I was scared that trying to sew them on either by hand or with the sewing machine would be just too difficult. And that was an easier way to attach them. I also use these clips as the closure for the pants. I attached this ribbon so the pants wouldn't slide up, and I also gave the pants this red belt that I actually made for a different doll. In my concept art, she has the word wolf written directly onto the pants, but I thought it would be too difficult to iron it onto the pants and I decided to make a keychain instead. For that I designed a Wolf Girl logo. I cut it out with my Cricut machine and ironed it on to this red fabric. In one of my videos I explained that I had a hard time finding a very specific type of fabric. I always suspected it, but now I have proof of it after I made my Venus doll. You can actually make this fabric yourself. All you need is some fabric ironed on vinyl and some thin fabric, and then you can just iron it on and then you have the same fabric. So if you have a hard time finding this fabric, you can just make it yourself. Anyways, I ironed it onto this fabric and I cut it out and then glued that onto this black pleather fabric, and then that pleather fabric to another piece of black pleather fabric, and then cut that out. Now let's make a necklace. I cut some chains in 4 different lengths. Then I used some different charms. The longer the chains, the bigger the charms. When it came to her shoes, I did something that I usually don't do. I attached the toe part of the shoe already onto the shoe base in Blender, because I couldn't figure out a different way to make them. I painted them red and silver. I later brushed on some matte varnish to protect the paint. Now that I was done with the shoe base, I could move on with the fabric part of her shoes. I cut out the pattern out of this vinyl gray fabric and used this pleather red fabric for the lining. I glued the shoe tongue into the shoe base, and it was quite difficult because the shoe toe part is so small. And then I wanted to glue on the fabric part onto the shoe base. For that I made the cardboard shoe sole as I always do, and then glued on the fabric part onto the sole with hot glue. I cut off the excess and then glued it onto the shoe base using hot glue and uhu glue. So the only thing left to do is lacing up the shoes using this very thick ribbon. I dry brushed these shoes to weather them, and with that I was done with the shoes and also with the entire doll. And now I just have to dress her up. And she's done! Yay! And yes, I made her a second faceplate. You might be surprised to hear that, but for this doll, I actually did not print a new body. I actually just used Kiana's body for that. I couldn't justify printing another one when I already have this body printed. And it isn't even because of budget, it has more to do with space. I don't have that much space for another doll. On top of that, this body has a couple of flaws that I need to fix before I print a new one. I'm still surprised that the head looked as good as it does, because I really thought I had to redo it because it looks so terrible when I was sewing it together. but I somehow make it work. But I still not really trusting it. Like, a part of me thinks that eventually I look at this head and I'm like, what was I thinking? It looks ridiculous. With this doll, I think I'm going now to take a bit of a break from making new dolls because my room is a mess and I have to clean everything up. So I think my next video might be about something else. I think that I might try to fix some of the issues that the doll body has, and I also might make new body types. By the way, is anyone interested in tutorials, me showing you how I make dolls and blenders? I'm not so sure if I'm going to make one. The main reason is that I myself have to learn a lot of things. I think my workflow is still very messy and that caused a lot of problems for me. So I have to figure out a workflow that doesn't cause these problems. Anyway, that's all. Bye.